Hey, how's it going? This is George. This is Wayward Terran Frontier. Been kind of silent for a while. I've been hidden away in my little man cave working on server code, which means I've been programming databases, and I've been getting login to work, and I've been working on character selection algorithms and encryption and that type of garbage, and basically until recently I haven't had anything exciting or visual to show for it, so I haven't really been able to do any fun videos in a while. I usually like to make these videos, so had to take a break from the server code to program some cool looking new features for some other reasons. Mainly, the server code has come far enough that it was a good time to take a break, but also because I'm working on some other things, some things that I need to be working on. I'm making a cinematic game trailer, for one, which I think you're going to like a lot more than these usual videos, if I can do it right. It's kind of fun working on, but it's going to be pretty hard. I think you're going to like it better than my usual videos because it's not going to have my voice in it, which is probably going to make it generally better. In addition, it's looking like at some point soon I might be looking into doing some crowdfunding. So don't be surprised if I start talking about potential Kickstarter or something like that. But as for this video, I just kind of want to show off some of the new features that I've been putting into the game engine by just kind of playing around with them. But I want to kind of rant about what's going on with the code and where it's going in the future and what it's going to be. So far as where the server code is right now, the server is far from working. It's not going to be finished anytime soon. It's got authentication kind of working. You can log into it. It remembers your user in the database. It remembers you can log into the same character multiple times. It does the transaction for username, password. It lets you log into the game world, handles all the threading and that sort of stuff, but there's no game to speak of. There's no interaction between multiple players, and it's generating the world, but it's not ready to share the world with a client. The point is, it's far from finished, and it won't be for a while. But I do want to talk about what my plans are for it because it's pretty exciting. Well, I guess I'll pause for a moment here and point out that what I'm playing around with here is one of the new mechanics. Because it's relative to the server. You haven't seen a lot of, things to interact with in the game as of yet, because that comes from the server. These objects are the type of objects that you would have the server telling you about. You have a region of space that you are in, and inside your little grid, before, the whole game took place in one of these grids, and it was basically empty, aside from the ships that you would spawn into it. The client is designed to handle, all of the various interactions that can happen within one of these grids, but the part that was always missing was the server, which is meant to act as the dungeon master, to kind of control your environment while you play through the game. So you enter a grid and it tells you, okay, here's what's in this grid. Because I'm implementing those features, I get to play around with things like these asteroids, which are, because they're part of the terrain, you can actually collide with them, and anyone can collide with them in multiplayer, and they can actually make for interesting environments and interactivity. And there's going to be all sorts of stuff in the actual game universe, stuff which wasn't in the tech demo before. So that's quite exciting to me, because I get to use it to craft an awesome story and tell a lot about the lore of the game and that sort of thing. So I'm just gonna be kind of flying through this and trying to get to that ship at the end over there so that I can show off some of the other mechanics. But I also wanted to address something that I see popping up a lot in the news and the media and such, as people saying that my game is an MMO. I think that's probably my fault. I mentioned that it feels like I'm programming a server for an MMO. I never really intended for the game to be an MMO. It's just that I'm not designing the server the way typical single-player game servers are designed. Typically, I believe, small session multiplayer games where you have like 10 to 30 people in a session playing together, they're often designed with the assumption that the entire game basically runs on the server, and then the clients simply kind of relay the messages about what's going on from the keyboard, the mouse, the user input. Basically, the game gets run on the server, and then the server sends back to the clients, the results of their actions. So everyone just kind of uses their game client as a terminal to see the game world that's actually existing on the server. Wayward Terran Frontier is a little bit of a different architecture than that. The server controls everything that happens in the game universe. It's authoritative over all the assets. It sends you the artwork, so you can receive procedural artwork from the server, and the client never knows what it's going to find and what it will interact with, and what will happen to its characters as a result of all that. But at the same time, the client handles a lot of the actual gameplay, and likewise the clients can handle gameplay for each other. So the net result is that the server architecture ends up being a lot more complicated than it would be in other games, and so when I said it feels like I'm programming an MMO, in a sense, it's kind of probably not too far from the truth, because the architecture is probably more similar to an MMO architecture than it is to a standard 32-player multiplayer deathmatch type game. Whether or not it will actually handle more than 100 people, I don't know. I'm gonna have to test it with a whole bunch of different people, and that's why my first alpha test is going to be me hosting a single shard. I'm going to host it on some third-party hosting, and a select number of people will be able to connect to it, and honestly, those people are going to make the game crash so that I can figure out what does and what doesn't work. And then the idea is, hopefully I'll find out whether it's going to be, how many people it can handle. I expect it will easily handle, 30 people, but I don't know until I try it. So if it turns out that it can only handle 10 people, then really what the game ends up being won't be that different from what I originally intended it to be, which is the game is supposed to be you host the server yourself. People have their own copy of the server, and they host their own game world. And if that turns out to be the case, that allows me to design really awesome tools into the server, because the idea of the server hosting was always that the person who hosted the server was like the dungeon master. They decide kind of the law of the land of what goes on in space and what goes on in the game environment, and they can control some events, and probably I'll open up a lot of it to modding so that people can make really custom server environments to play in, and then the clients can just connect to their servers and enjoy those custom environments. That was kind of always my plan. If it does turn out that the architecture handles 10,000 concurrent players, well, then maybe I'll adjust my strategy. I don't really know, but for the most part, let's not work on the assumption that this is meant to be an MMO. It's just meant to be a multiplayer game. As far as the actual gameplay and the game mechanics, I guess it's going to be kind of sandboxy and MMO-like. Hold on, I need to explode for a second. As far as game mechanics, initially what it's going to be is I'm not going to really have the ability to do the full story and all the content that I would like for there to be in the, the released version. I'm going to have to make kind of a very trimmed down version, which I think is going to be okay. I'm designing the game world to allow me to really... here, let me switch real quick. I'm bad at multitasking. The idea is that you're going to have this big map, and you're going to spawn into it, and you're just going to be kind of left to do what you want, which isn't too much different from what you currently have, and but hopefully it'll be more interesting, because the idea is that the server, acting as a dungeon master or whatever, will have the ability to make that world more interesting by putting stuff into it. You're going to play what I like to call an unbalanced RPG, and I'll talk about how I make the distinction a little bit later, but basically you're going to spawn into the world. You will start out with a character that has, a small budget and kind of a crummy ship, and you're going to explore. Around the game universe, there will be kind of spawn nodes that are called nexuses, and players will spawn around a node, and for the most part the game will play like a single-player exploration RPG. Now, it's going to be multiplayer. If you run into other ships, there's no limit to how you can interact with them. You can blow them up, you can make friends with them, you can jump onto their ship and play the equivalent of a single-player game as two people on the same ship together. Like, all of that is going to be possible. But the plan is to design it around the idea of kind of an elite-style, exploration sandbox. There's a universe that you're dumped into, and you just go out into it and see what you can find. So, what types of things are you going to be able to find? Well, the idea is that you'll be able to find new technologies, new types of weapons, new modules. So you're going to be able to unlock things like missile launchers. That's one of the things I'm planning for you to, a whole infrastructure of missiles and missile launchers, new weapons that you haven't seen before, new types of weapons, and all of these technologies are going to be unlockable in game by boarding ships and kind of salvaging database stores from the ships that you destroy and the ships that you find, and so maybe you go over here. I'm gonna, over the course of this video, slowly try to get to this asteroid field. I guess, so at one point I talked about kind of the scale of the universe, so I'm giving maybe a decent impression of how big the game universe is. So this represents, each one of these little boxes represents a, what is, the size of a session, the size of the game area that you could play in the game before there was a game universe. The size of that is basically determined by what can be accurately addressed by a 32-bit floating point number. And I could have obviously done like a 64-bit floating point number and done a much bigger individual grids, but either way, if I want to simulate a very, very large galaxy, I'm going to have a lot of small grids. Floating point numbers was much easier because I can render the position of a floating point without any conversion whatsoever. And so I chose to have just, the individual little grids be representations of, the maximum value of a floating point, and then everything around them can be determined based on their position on that grid. So what you're seeing here is a region, and there's billions, trillions, maybe quadrillions of grids within a region. And then the regions exist in a 2048 by 2048 grid themselves, which makes up the entire galaxy. And so realistically, you can see by the pace of exploration here that you're not likely to ever really get to the end of the universe. It would take about as long to fly from one side of the galaxy to the other in the game as it might. Well, certainly not as long as it would take in real life, but probably still longer than a human lifetime, so what do you care? And so I'm talking about mechanics. Mostly what you're going to do in the early game is just explore. The server is going to make sure that while you're exploring, procedural events show up, things that you can discover, things that you can explore, things that will advance your character. And so the universe is going to be populated by cool stuff. And then, of course, players can interact with each other however they want. It's going to be unstructured, which means there won't be any sort of like NPC factions initially for you to kind of ally with or join the fight with, whatever. If you want to shoot each other, you don't really need me to tell you how to do it. Like I said before, the idea is once the server is working, maybe I'll have downtime or something that will allow me to add content in on a regular basis. And since the galaxy is really so large, I can put cool new stuff in places that other people haven't looked yet. And so there'll always be something to find. And so I said earlier that basically what you'll be playing is an unbalanced RPG. I want to talk about a little bit what I mean by an unbalanced RPG. I've seen kind of a dichotomy in RPGs lately in the market. So you have the standards like World of Warcraft style MMO RPG, and I would consider that to be a balanced RPG. And then you have like these roguelike type games like FTL and the Sword of the Stars, the Pit. These games that are definitely RPGs, but they're not balanced in the same way. And I guess what it really comes down to, I've thought about it a lot, but basically, if you have an RPG that's balanced, then what you have is you have an arms race between players and the kind of the NPCs in the environment that they fight, and basically it always comes down to players versus environment, or even players versus players. In a balanced RPG, what you end up with is you design the mechanics so that every time your character gains power from a game mechanic, the amount of power that you gain is perfectly balanced so as to be exactly offset by the amount of power that the environment gains. So when you're level 1, you kill a rabbit, and a rabbit, happens to be exactly the right difficulty to fight at level 1. And you kill enough rabbits to get experience, and your experience allows you to level up to level 2. And at level 2, you gain enough power that a pig is exactly the right challenge for you. And so you gain, 2 power, and a pig is a difficulty of 2 compared to the rabbit. And so, really, you can see the arms race goes up like that all the way. At level 3, you're fighting a wolf instead of a pig, and at level 4, and 5, and so on and so forth, until you get to level 50 or whatever, and you hit the level cap, and then it's not your level anymore that determines your power, but your gear. So now your gear is at level item level 60. So you have just the right gear that you can do a green quality instance, and the green quality instance gives you blue quality loot, and the blue quality loot is just the right item level that you can go in and do a purple quality instance, and you do the purple quality instance, and it drops loot that's just the right item level to do a higher and purple quality instance, and what happens is that, as your character gains power, the environment always gains the exact same amount of power, and so effectively your character is always at the same level of effectiveness compared to its environment. Now, I think this is very standard because in multiplayer games it kind of seems intuitive to want to balance a game this way, because otherwise, you have people that get very attached to their characters and want to improve them effectively forever. And so what a lot of these companies have done is they've created mathematical equations for unlimited number increasing, where my favorite is the example that Blizzard has made with their itemization scaling, where they literally have an endless equation that can always raise the itemization number on the loot, and raise the stat number on the characters, and raise the stat number on the enemies, based off of a mathematical formula that always guarantees that it's always perfectly balanced. The alternative that I've mostly seen in single-player games is the completely unbalanced games like roguelikes, where your character might find a game mechanic or an item that completely unbalances the equation. And I feel that these types of mechanics are more... the mechanics in an unbalanced RPG are fair, in the sense that the mechanics allow the arms race to become unbalanced between player and environment, because the mechanics work the way mechanics should work without caring about the arms race. I think that an unbalanced RPG is a lot more fun to players, because it's very satisfying to break the game mechanics. It's very satisfying to, if you will, defeat the game that was set out for you. And I think that's why in games like, in roguelike games, you tend to die all the time in your attempt to beat the game, but it doesn't really matter, because what's exciting about these games is the knowledge that, hey, if I find a new item that's going to make me crazy powerful, then I might get farther into the game world than anyone has ever gotten. Whereas, the enemies that I fight are, of unknown difficulty to me. I don't know how hard they're going to be, because the environment itself is not environment. It's just the environment itself is not balanced around me. The environment feels more real. The achievement of getting an item feels more real because it can actually change the equation. And so that's really... I want to try to make a multiplayer version of that. And so that's why I've introduced kind of a permadeath mechanic, because, basically, because there are ways to balance a unbalanced RPG, and most of them are accomplished by, other mechanics other than balancing the arms race. A lot of roguelikes, you have permanent character death, and which sucks, because one of the cool things about an RPG is, this permanent improvement that you make over the course of playing it. Well, so how do you accomplish that? Well, a lot of these games have unlocks. You by defeating a boss or by getting a distance into the game or whatever, you unlock something cool. Wayward Terran Frontier is basically going to go along that approach. You have a character, and the idea is that your character can be resurrected in a new body, but your ship is a real thing. So the idea is that when you spawn into the game universe, you're spawning into a ship that is created for you for that instance of playing. And when the ship is created, it exists in the game world as a mortal, limited object. And if you crash into something, or if you take damage and you can't repair the damage, or if you get blown up, or if you maybe make an upgrade. Maybe you find a crew member and add him to your crew. These things can make permanent changes to that ship and to the crew of that ship for the duration of that ship's existence, because it really exists in the game and really abides by the game environment's rules and mechanics. And you can use your ship to make permanent improvements to your account. So maybe you go out and you make some money with your ship, and then your ship blows up, and you're like, oh, I really like that ship, I wish it didn't blow up. Well, who cares, because you made money, so you can use the money to increase your budget, and you can go back to that same ship design, maybe improve it a little bit with the budget that you've earned, and once you've no, that is not going to work. Okay, let's back out of there. Once you've improved the ship design a bit, you go back and you try to do the same challenge over again, and maybe this time you succeed. And so there will be that persistent progression, but I think that the mortality of your ship and the kind of mutability of both characters and the environment at the time of playing will help balance the fact that really there is no overall balance to the arms race between player environment, if that makes any sense. You really can have a ship that's overpowered. That'll probably happen. I'm not going to try to prevent that. But you know what? There will probably also be enemies out there somewhere that are overpowered. And if you run into them, they'll probably kill you very fast. So, the fun part of it will be coming back with a friend and trying to overcome that challenge, because it's a real challenge. It's not just, a manufactured number set up to challenge you. Anyways, so those are kind of my thoughts on balanced versus unbalanced RPG. You're going to be, like I said, I really want to fill the game world with content. I want to add lots and lots of new ship hulls, new weapon types, things to mount onto your turrets. I want to add a whole bunch of new modules, so there's lots of cool technologies for you to unlock. And you're going to have to find these things by going out and exploring. And the farther you can successfully explore, the more cool stuff that you'll find. And that's pretty much going to be the whole game until I can get more of the core world mechanics working. So it's just going to have to kind of expand in an iterative sort of way. I guess, did I show off docking? Let me show off docking. Nope, that's not what I meant to spawn. I meant to spawn one of these. When you destroy ships, you're gonna board them, which means that you'll have to dock with them, and I'm pretty proud of this mechanic. You can steal ships this way too. So long as there's no enemy crew on the other ship, their docking ports will open and you'll be able to board them. So, the easiest way to board a ship is to just shoot it until all of its crew members are dead. Once its crew members are dead, you kind of walk from one ship over to the other. And then you can go, also, okay, I would go into this airlock, and that'll put me on that ship over there. And I can go to their command console and I can hack it. Okay, so now I'm in charge of their ship, sort of thing, and I can control it. And I can either steal their ship and fly it, like maybe it's a better ship. You'll probably have to repair it if you do that, or maybe you just want to, take the loot that's on it. Maybe you'll get money from its database, or you'll get a new technology unlock, that sort of thing. So, anyways, that's going to be the main thing you'll do in the game. I just wanted to show off that mechanic. What else did I want to show off? The only other thing, really, that I've got that I can show off is a new damage mechanic that I've created. I've made kinetic bullets. So you've got kind of the two types of bullets here. So the old type is the explosive bullet, where when it comes in contact with something, it destroys all of the pixels around, in a region around where it hit. So really, a single pixel of shields is sufficient to prevent it from damaging the area behind. Kinetic bullets have a different effect. They don't explode on contact, they pierce, so they keep going. And they have a certain amount of kinetic energy which determines how deeply they'll pierce. I was quite proud of this because a kinetic bullet will pierce multiple layers of shields and keep going if the shields are gone. So, as you can see, it's damaging both the shields here and the shields here, because in between there's nothing to stop it. And kinetic bullets are quite effective at punching through thin shields and doing damage to the hull underneath, whereas explosive bullets are probably do more damage overall. So it'll bring about interesting design mechanics. You'll have to decide whether you want to have a thick, solid blob of shields. So if I were to go here, okay, here's shields. Let's try this. Let's go and make a massive blob of shields that's all just one solid wall. Because this is going to be, just for demonstration purposes, this is going to be a lot more effective against kinetic shots, because they have to absorb the health of every pixel they travel through. Whereas explosive shots, as you'll see, will do massive damage. So here's what an explosive, let me see, here's what an explosive bullet would do. Bam, you see it just removes a big region, and it takes a lot of energy to regenerate that. But kinetic bullets, on the other hand, will pierce into it, and can easily punch a hole if they keep hitting the same spot. Likewise, armor on the side of your ship is probably a lot more effective against kinetic, because kinetic bullets get stopped almost instantly by armor. I think right there is some armor, yeah, right above where I shot. So that's armor. Yeah, see, one pixel removed because it's armor, as opposed to here where it'll remove a whole section. And explosive, on the other hand, if it hits the armor, because it's doing a region of damage, the armor is less effective. And you get areas removed around the armor, even behind the armor. So, anyways, that's the type of thing that that's the type of stuff that you're gonna be able to find and unlock by exploring the universe. Try to get, interesting new mechanics that aren't necessarily just straight more powerful, but give you more options for designing the ultimate ship. And then you can travel through the galaxy blowing up all your friends because you've built the most awesome destroyer. Or maybe you'll make something really bad and you'll get blown up all the time, and then you can invite a friend and hang out on his ship instead. But anyways, that's all I wanted to cover for now, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you at the next video. In fact, keep an eye out for the upcoming cinematic trailer if I ever get that working. See you later.